For Quick Tip Tuesday this week, we talked about the importance of spine flexion extension, specifically relating to getting back into horizontal shoulder abduction or scap retraction during the throwing motion. So post last week I talked about with one of our guys how much better his shoulder horizontal abduction has gotten recently, and how that relates and kind of the numbers we want to see when we're running like a biomechanical evaluation like pitch AI or something of that sort, and where we want guys, and how we often skip forward to either just trying to get the motion, the scap retraction motion down, or we worry about thoracic rotation without worrying about flexion extension, when that should be the first piece that we get, because that will knock over the most dominoes and help more with both those things. So one thing that we like, it's a very constrained exercise, and we like to prescribe that for guys that either have trouble feeling their body in space or doing some stuff on their own, distance training, or just want to give them some homework to do so that they can do it right and get the most out of it. So for this particular one, we're doing basically like a spine car, if you're familiar with FRC, but we're just doing the flexion extension piece and not doing the whole rotation piece. So we're going to get our back against the wall. I want to roll my hips a little bit, so basically my whole spine is against the wall, and I want to hug the ball just like you're hugging anything. And then I'm going to start with my chin with a little bit of a tuck. So from here, it should be my head, as much as my upper back as possible, all the way down to my tailbone on the wall. And then from here, I want to work just on rolling, start with the cervical. So flexion through the cervical. And then as I go down, it should be super slow. I'm keeping tension on the ball, hugging it. And then I'm going vertebrae by vertebrae. So if you look at my back, and I have a little bit of trouble with doing this, but just imagine that every time I crunch down a little bit more, one vertebrae comes off the wall. So we're going down vertebrae by vertebrae. And this is also a good evaluation technique if you are evaluating yourself at home. I have a ton of flexion up to here. And then as from here, I start moving more as a block towards my low back. So it's like my lower thoracic or my upper lumbar spine starts moving as a block. And so it's really hard for me at like this point to roll down individually without a lot of my back coming off the wall. I'm gonna do the best that I can. And then I'm gonna start moving backwards. This is where we work on the extension piece of putting each vertebrae back on the wall. So in this motion, once I get to this position, I want everything to move together with my body. That's not right. I want to go back the same way I went down, where it's piece by piece. And I can feel it through my thoracic spine a lot right now. Piece by piece going up on the wall. You can hear it like taking my breath away. Hard for me to talk and do this, but that's the motion and the intensity we want with each rep. So that would give you a really good idea about how your body's moving in space. It's super constrained. It's a really good place to start at home. The other exercise we're doing was just a cat camel. So for that, it's the same idea of wanting to get as much flexion and as much extension as possible, and then be able to segment each vertebrae so you're moving vertebrae by vertebrae. So same thing as we're here. I'm going to start in a neutral spine position, so I should have some bit of an S-curve to my spine here. I'm starting by just rolling my hips under. So that's right there, and then my low back starts rounding, and I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, move a little faster than I should, so I'm all the way tucked, including my chin, so I am getting some cervical flexion here as well. From this position, I'm going to hold here, and I'm going to start reversing. So I want from here up to be still, and just my tailbone roll under. And then I'm going to start working up my back as I go into extension. One of the common mistakes we see here is as soon as we start going into extension, the area between your shoulder blades really collapses down towards the ground, and I end up like this as I'm trying to work my low back. So we want to feel like we're pushing our chest up through the ceiling as much as we can here until I get to that portion. So again, not good extension, so excuse the lack of doing this exercise properly. As I get here, now I'm going to start arching my upper back and trying to look up towards the ceiling. So my thoracic spine is more flat. We want more of an arch in that, and that's one place that's going to be a big emphasis in my program that I will look at, and that's another way to just kind of evaluate people through movement. If someone gets there and they are have a ton of thoracic extension here, and then they go try to get into flexion, and they're like this, and there still is a little bit of a valley between the shoulder blades, and they're not able to actually get protraction or get any spinal flexion at all, we're going to do the opposite with that person, work more flexion-based exercises to get that motion down. So it's a great way to work on self-constraint with these two exercises where you have some type of idea about how you're moving in space. Doing the cat camels in the mirror is really good, or having someone, or setting up your phone and just videotaping it, and you can give yourself a little bit of idea about where you need to concentrate with your own mobility exercises. And then again, we need to hammer out whether it's flexion or extension. We need that spine to be able to round and arch as well as we can before we really start diving into more of like a specific shoulder horizontal abduction or getting into a lot of rotation. So knock that thing out, knock the spinal flexion extension out first, then the next piece would be more rotation and specific drills for horizontal abduction.